Hello there. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining me tonight. If we haven't met, my name is Julie Hirschberg. I'm a neurologic physical therapist, the owner and founder of Re+active Therapy and Wellness here in the Los Angeles area. And I'm happy to be back and share some of what I've been reading and learning and doing with our crew here at Re+active and Re+active Education. And there is a lot that has come out recently, particularly in functional neurologic disorders. So I have kind of a blitz of information for you all. So thanks so much for joining me. And I want to hop right in first and share from a picture standpoint here. This is the first thing. So this actually came yesterday. This is from Chelsea Richardson, our clinic director in Torrance, also our FND program director. And she shared this. She said, y'all, one of our intensive clients with functional tremors and seizures just got her driver's permit. And I want you to know, and I'm sure every other neurotherapist here could say the same thing. When we hear, so this person had emailed Chelsea, when we hear, we are like doing a little dance party. Our whole team is. We're cheering, we're high-fiving for you. We're so excited. And this came and literally, so first of all, we're celebrating. When somebody has seizures, it can be really hard to get back to driving. So we are celebrating this. And actually, we have a track record with the majority of people who've done an integrated program with us have gotten back to driving. And that's a very big deal for most teens who are looking forward to being independent and driving, for most people in LA who rely on driving. So this was a really big win. Literally the next day, I was on Twitter, which is where I follow a lot of researchers. I see what's being released, and this article came out. I could not believe the timing of this. So let me just share with you the title of this article right here. It was about driving in FND. So it's called Hazard Perception Skill and Driver Behavior in Patients with Functional Neurologic Disorders. How about the timing of that? I was just so floored. I could not believe this just came out, and we had, just heard from a patient that had gotten back, and somebody is sharing, congratulations. And you see, this is so awesome. This is the hope, right? And I think if you've had an FND, had seizures or tremors or other things that would limit your driving, I think it's really hopeful to know that most people are getting back to driving. And I think especially, we work with a lot of teenagers like that. My daughter, who's 14, talks about driving all of the time. She cannot wait to get her learner's permit. It's such a rite of passage for a teenager. So it's huge. So in this study, this was done in Australia. I thought it was so interesting. They had 43 people with functional neurologic disorders that were either functional motor disorders or functional seizures. And then they had 43 healthy controls. And they basically took them through kind of a driving testing type of thing, not in a simulator. So this was all hazard perception skills. They took them through these types of testing situations to look at how those folks with functional neurologic disorders did. And I will show you, I'll show you the outcomes, but I want to just read a couple of it. So they did self-reported questionnaires of their driving behaviors, and then they were computer-based assessments. And this was what is so interesting. There was no difference between the groups. And in fact, the folks with functional neurologic disorders were even better than the healthy controls. So let me just show you this outcome here, right here. So it says accepted. So this is just published. So even in the one that I downloaded, it still had the accepted watermark across it. So anyway, in graph 1 and graph 2, you can actually see the groups, and you can see that the FND group was better than the healthy control at hazard perception. And this is really interesting. So now again, this was not a driving test. They weren't in the car. This was a computer-based test. Some of these are what people might use to see if you are fit to get back with driving, but this was not a driving test. That would be a great next study to do, but this is the first step, right? What was interesting is to think about, well, why might a person with FND actually be better at scanning their environment for a hazard? Well, a lot of folks with FND actually tend to have that hazard system on alert even more than other folks. It's part of their beautiful brains, but sometimes it can go awry and actually lead to some of the functional neurologic symptoms. Sometimes it can be helpful, like in driving. But also, this is something to think about that, I often think about as a person is kind of getting back to life and things that also might make driving exhausting if your kind of hazard and alert is very, very high, right? So that's not what they tested here, but these were things that I was thinking of clinically, like, okay, number one, I'm seeing this clinically. People with FND are regularly getting back to driving, and that's huge. But the other thing is that, hey, they actually have some of the skills necessary to drive. So that includes scanning the environment and being able to see what hazards are in the way. And then what we might need to think about, and I think, I rely heavily on occupational therapy for this, what other skills are needed for driving? It's the head turning, it's the responses in somebody's extremities and things like that. We find across the board in most people that we see with FNDs that they can get that back as well. So really, really interesting and exciting findings for folks with functional neurologic disorders to get back to driving. So cool. Okay, so that was one of my many updates in functional neurologic disorders. I got to share another one, and I'm getting a lot of comments here. What an interesting study, right? I think one, it gives me a lot of hope, but it's just interesting. The more I read, the more I want to keep reading, right? Does that ever happen to you? You're just like, oh my gosh, so interesting. What else is there for us to learn? So I want to share something else that was shared. I realize this is really large, so you can't see all of it, but I recently joined the Functional Neurologic Disorders Society. They have a Pediatric Special Interest Group, and we see a lot of kids at Re+active in our intensive program, and I was really interested in this. I actually have not even been able to go to a meeting yet, but they recently released these great resources. So I'm going to share these in our newsletter this week. If you're not on our newsletter, you can, if you're a healthcare provider, join at reactiveeducation.com. If you're a person with a functional neurologic disorder, join at reactivept.com. And I will put these in our newsletter. These were phenomenal resources to help a person explain to, if their kid going back to school, what is FND? What's my response plan with FND? What should you do if I have symptoms, for example, which is don't call an ambulance, don't call 911. So really, really helpful step-by-step pieces. So there's this FND support one. Let me show you the other ones as well that they put together. I love this one. So this is examples of things to support a healthy nervous system. And again, I'm going to pull up because you can't really see it, but they're classroom friendly tips like temperature, aromatherapy, some of the actual things you can use in the classroom, like the 5-4-3-2-1 exercise, sucking on a sour candy, all of these great things that you could use in the classroom. So again, this is aimed at kids with functional neurologic disorders returning to school. And honestly, I think it'd be helpful for adults as well, whether you're returning to school or work or wherever, whatever you're doing. So that was number 2 of the resources that they shared. And this one I really love. This is the FND response plan. And I know it's only showing kind of a picture of it, but it goes through and the person can describe, for me, my functional neurologic disorder looks like this. Here's my warning signs, what to do during an episode: remain calm, speak positively about me, cover hard surfaces near me, help me safely to the ground, say things. Oh, I love this. You're having an episode, you're safe, and you have the tools to get through it. I'm here with you when you're ready. I love that. So helpful. And it has what to do if it's about to happen and what to do after. What not to do. And I think this is so important. Don't call 911. Don't remove me from school. Don't behave frantically. I know that can be really hard as a family member, as a friend, as a teacher with a student seeing something like a functional seizure. But knowing that those things actually can ramp up the nervous system and make it worse can be really helpful. So these 3 resources put together by the Pediatric SIG at the FNDS, and then also you can see they're by FND Hope. I'll put these in the newsletter. I think they're great. You can share them with your clients. If you're a person with FND, you could use them. These are universally so helpful, and they just came out. So I was really excited to have these and excited to use these. So I put these in the resources that our whole Re+active team uses. They're in our Brain Bites resources. They're just really for everybody. So that's number 2. So first we talked about a really great article that came about FND and getting back to driving. Second was these resources for getting back to school with pediatric FND. And then finally, super excited about this as well. One last thing that was very recent is the neurosymptoms.org in Spanish. So this recently came out as well. A group of folks, I forget the name of the lead person, translated the whole neurosymptoms.org site into Spanish. So this website was one of my first go-tos learning about functional neurologic disorders. It's a great education website. I use it a lot. I use it a lot with patients as well. So to have this in Spanish, to have it accessible in Spanish, and the videos, by the way, in Spanish is so helpful. So I think this is a big moment for neurosymptoms.org to improve accessibility. So I think that's pretty exciting. If you're not familiar with neurosymptoms.org, fabulous website. You can just go to neurosymptoms.org. You can go through and click on different symptoms, read about it, and now you can do it in Spanish. So great. So I'll stop sharing. I know that was a lot of resources, but I can't help it. So much coming out just now in the new year. Again, if you're not on our newsletter, I will send this all out, a link to the article that I talked about returning to driving in functional neurologic disorders. I will actually send out these actual pediatric resources, honestly, because I couldn't find where they are downloadable at the moment. They shared all of the resources on Twitter, but I couldn't see a place where you could just download them. So I'm just going to put them in our newsletter, share them out with all of you. And I'll share a link to neurosymptoms.org. So many great things in the FND world. And you know me, I love this stuff. I'm going to keep reading and learning and sharing with you every week. So thanks so much for joining me today. Again, if you're not on our newsletter, Re+active Education, .com if you're a healthcare provider, and reactivept.com if you are a person or family member of somebody with a neurologic disorder. Thanks so much for being here, for caring about this type of information, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you, Amy. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Paige, for being here. I really love this community so much. So thank you for being here, and I wish you all well. Thanks.